Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Library Talk and Everything Else. I'm your host, DJJC. Thursday, November
7th.
Right. That is the voice of Mr. John Ferris. He is returning as a guest today. John, good morning to you.
Good morning. Good morning.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing just fine.
You were walking again to the studio, and it is November, and it is still really hot out there, isn't it?
Yes. It's still upon us, so it's good.
Now, there is a storm coming. I was noticing that on the Weather Channel.
Oh, yeah.
There is some
Yes, hopefully
activity in the Gulf, so
yes,
hopefully
there's still some
everybody's safe, and
activity. Hopefully
everything-
everybody's going to be safe with
Yes.
it. Hopefully it may dissipate, we're hoping for that.
Yes. So I have asked Mr. Ferris to come back to the show because today we're going to be talking about gambling. Now, I do need to mention a disclaimer. We are not here to encourage, promote, advertise anything related to gambling. We are simply talking about the sociological aspect of it, psychological aspect, history of it, and I think it's going to be a really great conversation.
Oh, yeah,
So
yeah.
I bet. You see that? I bet it's going to be a wonderful conversation. So please, you're listening to Library Talk and Everything Else only on Vaquero Radio, the Valley Student Station. We have chosen two songs that relate somehow and tenuously to gambling. So please join us after the break. So glad you're with us today. Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us again for Library Talk and Everything Else. I'm your host, DJJC. If you're just joining us after the music break, thank you so much. I have a colleague of mine, Mr. John Ferris, joining us in the studio today. Good morning, John.
Good morning. Well, how you doing this morning?
Doing well again. So if you may have missed the first part of the show, we talked about today's topic being about gambling. And I do need to say this disclaimer. We are not encouraging, promoting gambling. We are simply going to talk about different aspects of it. Now, with that said, you have been here before, John.
Yes.
You came by a while back to discuss The Twilight
No,
Zone.
that's right.
Which is a wonderful episode. And I bring that up because if you are new to the show, thank you so very much for discovering us. If you are a longtime listener, we truly, truly appreciate the support. Honestly, you have been great. You have been great and wonderful in just encouraging us, supporting us. So we really do appreciate you being here again and allowing us to spend our morning with you. So the show is research-based. And so every episode, we do have a research question. And so we're going to talk about that. But before we do that, I want to get back to John. I want him to introduce himself and tell us about who he is, what he does, and how he is part of the university community. So, John, good morning again.
Oh, good morning. Thank you for that introduction. I sure appreciate it. Well, I am a research instructional librarian, and here at the UDT-RGV Brownsville Campus Library, I've been here for over 10 years. I really enjoy it very much. I love it. And what I do is I assist students with whatever I can with research instruction, research that we're going to share about this topic.
Yes, we are.
And we're also some of the instruction sessions that I do for students, and they really enjoy it. And I'm insisting all of my patrons and all of my faculty members and staff, and I really very much here to assist as much as I can. I really enjoy the work that I do.
Thank you so much, John. And we are getting ready to finish up the term.
Yes.
So for any of you that are listening and do need some research assistance or library services of any sort, please visit us both on the Brownsville campus,
Yes.
Edinburgh campus, Harlingen Medical Library. We're here.
Yes,
We're here to
yes, please
assist
reach
you.
out
And,
to us if you
and,
need
and
help.
the semester's going to come to an end very quickly.
Yes,
I
sooner
mean,
than we
it's
think.
already November, and by the time we know it, it's Thanksgiving, and we come back, and it's already, the end of the semester. So if you do need some assistance, please come by, see us, talk to one of the librarians, talk to one of the library staff members. We are here to serve you and help you out. So please, we always say take advantage of the resources that are available to you. And so whatever we can do to help you and advance your research, please let us know.
That's right.
Okay, so John, I mentioned the Twilight Zone earlier, and I bring that up because we're going to talk about gambling today, and there is actually one episode about, well, several, but there's specifically one called The Fever that is about a gentleman who becomes obsessed with the slot machine. I don't know if you remember that episode.
I vaguely do. I can say so many of them.
Yeah, there are so many, but we're not going to talk about the Twilight Zone today. We already did that conversation, and I bring that up again because some of our shows have already been uploaded onto YouTube. So if you missed a show, missed an episode, go to YouTube, check out the Vaquero Radio channel, and you can see not only this show, but you can also see a listing of all the other wonderful shows that are produced by Vaquero Radio. So we do want to thank Student Media for their help in producing some of these shows and for getting these videos and episodes uploaded onto YouTube. So again, if you have not had a chance to listen to some of them and are very interested, go back and listen to not only this one, but all the other shows that are there uploaded so far. And we're still waiting for the other ones to be uploaded as well. So Thank you very much. Okay, so today's research question, John, is going to be how do the psychological and sociological effects of gambling influence an individual's behavior, social relationship, and overall well being? So, we're going to take a look at some of those things because, gambling is so big.
Yes, yes, it is.
It is prevalent. You watch a football game and they're continuously bombarding you with these online apps that you can gamble
Yes.
and all these different things. And we're going to talk
Advertisements and all that.
right, exactly. Vegas,
Vegas, I mean, it's all over the place.
Vegas,
we're big
huge.
on football game. You can bet on anything. Anything.
oh, anything you can bet on anything.
Anything.
What are the prop bets they call them sometimes?
Prop bets, yeah, they got. Yeah, true.
So I brought we did research for this show and we kind of prepped for this and we brought some, tidbits, some information, some data for you that we want to share. And we're really excited about the opportunity to talk about this because it is something that, as I mentioned, is prevalent in, it seems like, every aspect of society. And so we want to touch on that. We want to discuss, what does the research indicate? What does the literature indicate? And what is Hollywood? Hollywood sometimes glamorizes
Yes,
things,
it does. There's a lot of stories out there of the gambling, and I was going to share a couple when you get the time.
Yeah, we'll talk about it a little bit later. How Hollywood and their perspective of gambling and history of gambling. So I wanted to look at the definition of what is considered gambling. And according to the American Gaming Association, it breaks down gambling into the following categories. Some of these, John, I had never heard of before. I don't know if you're familiar with these, but some of these I never heard of. So let me go down the list.
Go ahead.
Again, according to the American Gaming Association, it breaks down gambling into the following categories, including card rooms, and these are public and private card rooms. There's commercial casinos.
Okay.
There's charitable games and bingos. You see those sometimes at churches, and they have these different fundraising
Yes.
and
they do.
loteria and things like that. Tribal casinos.
The ones in Oklahoma, there's a lot of them out there.
Yes, and I want to mention that one real quick.
Go ahead.
Or one of them, not that one, but there's so many. But bookmaking, legal bookmaking,
Maybe baking.
lotteries. I had never heard of this one, John. I've never heard of this one, but this is called a parimutuel wagering. And parimutuel wagering is money staked in a parimutuel betting system, and it is gathered in a pool. Before the event, the total amount wagered is divided by cash staked onto each runner or competitor. This created final odds and a prospective payout for each outcome. And I had never heard of this particular one. Maybe I've dealt with something like this, or maybe I played something like this, but I've never really knew it had an official name, parimutuel wagering. And there's also advanced deposit wagering, and I didn't know about that one either. And that is advanced deposit wagering is a form of gambling in which the bettor must fund their account before being allowed to place bets. Advanced deposit wagering is usually used to bet on the outcome of horses or greyhound dog races, though it can be also applied to casinos. So again, I had never heard of these particular ones, parimutuel wagering or advanced deposit wagering. Those are new to me.
Yeah.
I mean, I know about dog races. I know about horse racing and things like that. In fact, here in the Rio Grande Valley, we had a dog racing live.
The Valley Race Park.
Valley Race Park in Harlingen, and it was very successful for many years, but then it closed down, and I believe now it just does, I think, simulcasting gambling, because it used to do live
They also
racing.
do that in Oklahoma, too, and in Florida, I think they also do that.
You mentioned Oklahoma earlier, and I said the casino. No, there's so many, but I had a brother-in-law who was in the military in Oklahoma, and we went to visit him the very first time, and it's kind of a long drive out there to Oklahoma,
Of course. Yeah,
at
it
least
is.
from
It
Brownsville,
is.
Texas.
12 hours, it's a long drive. Yes,
It is about 12 hours. And I remember, John, passing the state line into Oklahoma, and there's a casino just a couple of miles.
Just right as you cross. It's just like, there it is.
Right. So we passed by, and I was just kind of curious, and I am sure there were a lot of Texas license plates there at the casino.
You can almost guarantee that. I mean, they're just too close to the state line. The temptation is too great, and that's why we're talking about gambling too, because of the temptation. The WinStar Casino, that's one I know.
WinStar,
particularly.
correct,
That's
yes.
one, and there's
Yes.
a couple of others too. I was going to say, so I can sprinkle a little bit of, if you don't mind, quickly.
No, by all means, go for
in legal bookmaking, I believe, if anyone remembers the great British actor Peter O'Toole.
Oh yes, Big
Yeah,
yes,
his
yes.
father, I believe, was a bookmaker.
Oh, okay.
That was interesting. That's how he kind of, and when he said, I think famously in an interview, or I think with David Letterman, he said he wasn't going to get the Academy Award for that year, even though it was a really great movie, my favorite year, which I had another one I love. He says, well, the odds are 9-1 against it, so. Well, enough said on that. That's all he said.
Those are the odds, huh?
Those are the odds, and so. But it's interesting. Yeah, his dad did do that for a living.
So we talked about the psychological effects of gambling, and we were going to delve a little deeper into this, but I know you stand in front of a roulette machine, or you stand in front of one of the slot machines, and you feel this next one is the one I'm going to win on.
Right.
The next one, the next pool,
always one more.
It's always one more, right?
And that's
You're
what
always
that's the start of the addiction. You start putting it in, and you don't think you put another cent or dollar or 25 in the one armband, and then you just say, okay, one more. I'll get to the next one. I'll get to the next one.
I'll get to the next one.
And that's how it starts.
And so that's one of the things about the psychological effects of gambling is that addiction and that compulsion to it. And many individuals develop gambling disorders because of inability to realize the negative consequences that can come from it.
Right.
And it can lead to intense cravings. You need it. The withdrawal of, you know what, I'll be right back. I'm going to go buy one lottery ticket. I'm going to go buy a scratch off. I'm going to go, I need to take that drive to one of the casinos, which is 4 or 6 hours away, because Louisiana has casinos and even here in Texas.
Yes.
And it's that compulsion that I need to have it. I want to win.
Have it.
And I'm gonna win. The next one I'm gonna win on. The next one's the one.
That's how the thinking begins. You're right. You're right on. That's the thinking, and that's what entraps them. And then you're trapped. And then you've taken the bait, and your mind and psychologically you're headed down a crooked path.
And there are all sorts of addictions. You're addicted to many things, but one of them that financially hurts is this one. I mean, you can be addicted to exercise. You can be addicted to so many other things that don't require money. But gambling is one where you lose so much financially. And again, the consequences of that loss. What are you losing in the end? Because, it might just be $1 here, $2 here. But how much are you really spending? How much are you really...
Over the course of a month, sometimes you can spend, and it doesn't stop, and there's no restraint. If you can't restrain yourself, that's when it starts to become a problem.
I live close to a Stripes, a gas station, and it seems like I see the same people buying lottery tickets there, the scratch-offs, and they will scratch the ticket off there in the gas station. And if they win, they just cash it out and get another one. And it's the same people buying lottery tickets. And I admit I buy lottery tickets as well. But, you see a lot of older people also. A lot of people that are retired and they want to just do something. And they'll go and invest. Well, if it's even an investment, I don't know, because you're not really getting a return, right?
Exactly. You kind of, I think some of these people are so poor. Well, poverty also gets a lot of these veteran seniors,
Yes. And so, another psychological effect that comes from it, according to literature, is anxiety and depression, because it can, these feelings of anxiety, because you're experiencing loss and you continue experiencing loss. I mean, how many people go to Las Vegas and come back miserable because they've lost everything?
Yes, it happens a lot more frequent than we know.
And that anxiety and that stress, can lead to financial strain, which is, again, a cycle. And you're just continuously going through this emotional distress and the cycle of I keep losing. And there are people that lose a lot. And some people that win a lot. And we'll talk a little bit more about that, because I know you and I have had some experiences winning and losing.
And lose,
with lottery. But, a lot of gamblers, though, they'll go to Las Vegas with these high hopes of winning, and this illusion of they're in control. I'm in control. I can stop anytime I want to.
It's almost like an alcoholic. Their famous line is, "I'll quit tomorrow. I can stop anytime I want to," and they really can't. And they just keep going and going, and nobody says no.
And there's this fallacy, that I'm gonna be okay. The next one's the one. The next one's the one where I'm gonna win. And you start cognitively thinking, man, you know what? is it possible? Can I win? Can I, beat the house? And you're never really going to beat the house, right, John?
Yeah, I said, well, the house always, when I think in Ocean's 11, it says, you take the house, and then you get fed that line by those movies, and then you think, and then all of a sudden your mind is thinking that. It's not good.
Now, for a lot of us, the lottery serves as this escape.
It's like
it's
escapism
It is
too, yeah.
escape.
Mm-hmm.
Just you buy $1 ticket. You buy a $1 ticket, you scratch it, you win $1, and you go back into the gas station and you play again. It's just a little escape, even though it lasts for 20, 30 seconds. It's this escape.
Yeah,
It's this
exactly.
escape into. I could potentially win $50,000 with just scratch on a
Same
scratch
thing.
off.
Or I could buy a drawing ticket for the Mega Millions for $320 million, and I think I'm going to win it.
And we start dreaming.
And we start dreaming.
We start dreaming about those things, and we start, unfortunately, believing that we're
going to win. And we know it's a mirage. And I think in our hearts and in our heart of hearts, we know it's a mirage, but we just can't help. The situation. So our financial something so strained is like, well, maybe just maybe one more trip going, and that's how. Again, it's a combination of escapism and, weird longing that just never does reach fruition. But we still go to it over and over.
And some people take it to an extreme, and they have this risk-taking behavior. They engage in gambling, and this risk-taking behavior to get more money, to find money, and it leads to sometimes reckless decision making.
Yes, that's right.
I'm going to take these $100 and I'm going to invest them into lottery because I'm going to win. And again, you're not really investing into things because you're not going to get a return. But it's only $100. It's one money, and I'll be okay. And so it's so interesting, how some states have adopted gambling, casino style gambling and lotteries, not necessarily Texas lotteries, but lotteries in general. And there are some states that just don't, don't engage in it. And I mean, we just talked about it right now, going to Oklahoma, right across the state line, to go gamble at a casino.
Right.
You're
going to go there and hope and dreams and get you all excited. and it happens every year. But the ones that are really, I think, have the problem that they keep doing it. They keep on that path. They'll go back to Oklahoma next year. Well, next year, man, I'm going to get that one. And I'll come back. Then they lose well, I'll go back and they grab it again. It's just like a vicious cycle. It just doesn't stop.
It doesn't. And so we looked at the psychological effects of gambling, but now let's look at the sociological effects. How does it affect our society? What comes of it? What can potentially lead to it? And social isolation. It can lead to withdrawal, damaging relationships with your family because you've borrowed money from them that you never paid, because you wanted to keep up with this gambling addiction that you have, and you start isolating individuals out of your life because you have kind of done them wrong by not paying them back.
Exactly. Or then even worse, there are worse cases in Hollywood. Like I say, I'm sprinkling another Hollywood moment. Debbie Reynolds countered that because that husband, she would never had no idea. She married twice, married Eddie Fisher, then they got divorced. Then he married this guy Harry Carl. And he was really supposed to be a keen businessman, supposed to know his stuff, but in his personal life, he was a gambler, addicted gambler to the max.
Wow,
I mean,
wow.
to a level of losing, in the course of his lifetime, $22 million.
Oh my goodness!
Of that, $8 million was Debbie Reynolds from the movies that she made. The wonderful movies she made in her life in Hollywood, and she had spent about, according to what I know, 10 years to pay it back.
Oh my goodness!
I mean, what you do to the family members.
Exactly,
too.
and that's another thing that a sociological effect is that impact, that economic impact on family.
Yes.
The financial strain that you put them under because of those losses that you keep amassing.
I mean, it's like 30,000 a night of losses. This is what this guy was doing, and she had no idea what was happening. And she was like, "Oh my God, what is happening?" And it's just such a strain on when especially the one that you leave behind. All those years that Debbie spent, to pay that back.
An interesting one is the dynamic within a community, where gambling is prevalent. There are shifts in those, societal norms, and gambling becomes normalized.
Yeah.
Go get me a lottery ticket. Go get me your grandma wants you to go get her a lottery ticket. I just turned 18, so I'm going to go on my way to
Yeah,
get a lottery
exactly.
ticket.
They become, your friends become like your codependent enablers. That's what they
Yeah,
call it.
exactly.
I know it's kind of drug addiction, but it's almost like the same things. In fact, there's a funny episode of King of the Hill, or funny where they're talking about gambling, and he says, "Well, yeah, Dad, that you're just empowering Mom to do it. You're a codependent enabler."
And one of the things that we haven't even touched on, John, is crime and delinquency.
yeah,
You know, the illegal activities sometimes that happen within that gambling. You know,
Oh yeah, because
and or
like
theft or fraud, people setting up illegal areas to go, the little machines, las maquinitas as they call them here in
Yeah,
the valley, and you every once in a while hear about a raid on these places, right? These illegally run maquinitas, these slot machines.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah.
you know, so there's always that criminal type
Element in there.
element to it, right?
Of course,
And
yeah.
you know, according to the research, there's also an impact on, you know, our mental health. You know, the demand for gambling and that necessity to want to gamble and to feel that you need it, and that addiction to it, you know. And what does that lead to? It necessitates more support services and interventions from professionals.
Exactly, yeah. And it's just, again, another vicious cycle. Try to heal, and then they go back, and around it goes over and over.
It does. So, you know, the effects of gambling they're complex. You know, they're
Yes,
complex, they're multifaceted, and they impact families, individuals, communities in a variety of ways, and sometimes positively, and we'll take a look at that. But unfortunately, there is a negative undercurrent and criminal and, you know, delinquent type feel to it.
Yes,
And
that's true.
so, but we keep doing it, John.
And we keep going back to it.
going
Another
back to
star that did that himself. I got doing research. It was Don Adams from Get Smart.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Apparently, he had acquired some debts from these nefarious people in Las Vegas. Like I said, I'm not going to name names or anything, but from the underworld, and he owed them big. And of course, he had done his act. He did comedy acts there in Vegas. Then he was compelled to do them because he had to pay all the stuff back. So then he was like, "Oh yeah, you're going." Just a moment's notice, they'd call Don and say, "Oh, you're going to do this, blah blah blah." Okay. And he would just rush off. I mean, and just affect your life like that. Right?
And you hear about stories of early Vegas and that kind of mafia connection to it. Now I think it's a lot of corporate companies that own a lot of those
They
casinos.
have taken it over.
They
yeah.
have, but there's, you know, Bugsy Siegel associated with
Yes.
early
The
Vegas.
early
and-
Vegas, the gamble and the debts.
And some of these crime families involved in some of these
Oh,
things.
cool,
And like you
yeah.
said, entertainers also being locked in and
They get
committed
locked-
to them
give it-
because,
because they accrue a debt and they have to
Exactly.
pay it back. Yeah.
Some way or another, right? So thank you so much again for listening to Library Talk and everything else. We're going to take a music break because John and I can continue talking about this. It's such a wonderful topic and conversation that we're kind of engrossed in. But we are going to take a music break, and hopefully you come back. Hopefully you're enjoying the show, enjoying the conversation. We are. So join us right after the music break. Thank you so much, everybody. Little Kenny Chesney mixed things up a little bit here, genre style here on Library Talk and everything else. So we're having a wonderful conversation with Mr. John Ferris from the University Library about gambling, about casinos, about the Texas Lottery is coming up next because we want to know a little bit. John, I know, as you mentioned earlier, you're a research librarian, and so when we started talking about this show, about this episode, we discussed how we wanted to talk about the history of the Texas Lottery. And so I have kind of a story to tell, but I want to hear your research. So please, by all means, go for it.
Oh, good. Thank you. I'm going to try to keep this in a nutshell. So it's too much. A lot of information I found. I'll try to again condense it. House Bill 54 was introduced for a state lottery on July 11th, 1991. The voters of Texas approved an amendment of the Texas Constitution. November 5th, 1991 was the date authorizing lottery sales in Texas. The lottery's first game was a scratch game called Lone Star Millions. I don't even remember that one that far back.
I remember that one,
You
John.
do? Oh.
I remember that. I remember Lone Star Millions because I was a sophomore in high school when that lottery came out, and I know I'm dating myself, but I was a sophomore in high school, and a friend of mine, she had a lottery ticket that won,
Really?
and we were too young to buy them, but somebody had bought her a ticket, and it was unscratched. She was holding on to that ticket. Even the teacher was like, "Can I see that?" And it was, I think, for a lot of us, it was the first time we had
First
seen
time you
a
ever
a
seen
lottery
it.
ticket,
Oh, okay.
and but unscratched. She didn't want to scratch
Yeah,
it. She
sure.
was just holding on to that, and she wanted to make it known that she was carrying around a Texas lottery ticket, and it was that first one. I remember sitting in English class with Mr. Green, and even he was intrigued by the lottery ticket.
Oh, wow.
So I remember that one. I do remember
You
that,
do? Oh,
that particular
okay,
ticket.
wow.
Yes.
Oh, well, that's good. Well, it's a wonderful. Well, let's see. The first ticket was sold to then Governor Ann Richards at Polk's Feed Store at Oak Hill on May 29,
Wow.
1992.
I didn't know that.
And the first day sales again was very high, but 23.2 million tickets were sold at that point world record. First week sales ending June 5th set another world record with the sales with over 102 million tickets. How about that? So it really
Wow.
caught on fast.
It really did. I was still too young, like I mentioned, to buy one, but I remember going to the store and they had already set up the display and they had already put the,
Of course
the
they
tickets there,
did,
and it was
yeah.
so tempting.
Again, to entice you to buy
To
it.
entice us to
That's what it's
buy
there
it.
for.
Right, it's there. And I believe, John, and I don't know if you found this in your research, that ticket, the jackpot was $10,000. I remember
Yeah, I remember that.
$10,000 was the most you can win on that scratch off. And then they just started producing these different themes, different colors, and all sorts of lottery tickets. But I still remember that first ticket because of my friend in our English class
That
showing
is-
it off.
You could recall it that
I
far
remember
back.
that. Yes, I
Oh,
remember
wow.
her showing it off.
Yeah. Did she win on a ticket?
I don't know. I don't know.
Never knew. Never scratched that thing off.
She was holding it for dear
Holding
life.
it, maybe just kind of holding the mystery. I guess
Holding the mystery. That's right. And so you, and again, please disclaimer: we're not promoting gambling. We're not advertising anything. But John, you a couple of years back, you won a pretty big jackpot, didn't
Yes,
you?
I did. I remember everyone recalls that 20. It's still out there. 20 million Supreme. It's a pretty expensive. $100 a pop. And I was going over to Corpus Christi just to relax. I was in Robstown and just in a Basin motel. And I went south. I say maybe there's some luck here. So I go to one of these 7-Elevens and by God, I won $500.
Oh, my goodness, John,
bucks.
$500.
I'm like, wow, that was nice. Especially it helps pay for the trip back. I was like, well, Santa finally gave me my present. Yeah, I was so awesome. Happy.
But it was kind of a pricey ticket, right?
Kind of pricey, yes. It was $100 a pop. I mean, that's a pretty expensive amount to pay for. Because some people cannot afford, can only afford the 50, the 25. I mean, luckily I have enough where I could afford a $100 ticket, but that's pretty expensive.
It is, and if you don't win, you're out $100.
Oh.
And again, we go back to what we were talking about with the psychological effects. $100. That can go a long way for a family. It
yes.
really can. Groceries and things that you need for the house.
Bills,
Yes,
bills and
bills.
all that.
So $100 is a little steep to pay for a ticket, but I'm gonna win. I'm okay. We're gonna win. I'm gonna take these $100 and I'm gonna
mentality just kind of kicks in automatically.
that we're gonna win. But yeah, I remember. Congratulations! I remember you winning.
Yes, thank you so much again. It was really wonderful. It was a very, very happy moment for like, wow, man, it's 500, wow. And I cashed it. I had a hard time cashing it in. There was a store there. I had to go to Robstown to do it. Had to go to 2 stores. Finally said, yeah, we'll cash in the tickets. I finally, wow. And then I think she was the daughter of the lady who was in the other convenience store. There were only 2 of them.
Oh,
there
my
now.
goodness.
So I got that and I won. Like, oh my gosh, it's so nice.
It's because it's hard to go to sleep knowing that you're holding a $500 ticket. So you
It
do want
was
to make sure
almost impossible.
make sure that you cashed it. I have never won too much in the lottery. Maybe I want to say $50 at the most, both in the scratch off and with the lotto. But what I did win, John, was a car.
Oh,
I
wow.
won a car
That's
at a
awesome.
church
I've never done that.
carnival. I
Wow,
won a
awesome.
car at a church carnival, and I never knew anybody that had ever won a car. But then I was a recipient of a winner of a car.
Wow,
So
wow.
a Ford Focus.
You don't hear that on The Price is Right. Those are people winning cars. I never seen in real life.
Yes, I actually won a car. So I think I peaked, John. That's it.
That's it. At that point, that was it.
I'm done.
That was your zenith, your denouement. That was it. Oh my God. Well, it's a good.
But I could again. I continue to play because I'm gonna win.
Another one. I know, there it is.
Win, right?
There's that addiction thing.
So thank you, John, for sharing some of that
you
history
bet.
of Texas lottery, and it's still running. I mean,
Still this
it's
day, yeah, I think they
30-something,
still
it's
have it.
running.
Yeah, in the millions now.
And so I went ahead and did some research on the controversy of gambling, because there's several schools of thought, but the most obvious is it's a good thing, it's a bad thing. And so I want to mention something that I used in order to do my research. And I know I talked about this earlier. If you are in need of library assistance or research assistance, come by the library, because we have a variety of tools and resources you can use. And one of the resources that I used is a database here at the UTRGV Library called Opposing Viewpoints in Context. And I went in there, and the reason I wanted to do my research on this particular database was because this database will provide you with both sides of an argument, both sides of an issue. They'll give you what they call the pro and the con. And so I searched gambling. I just did a search on gambling, and a wide variety of articles arguing for or against. But I brought two with me, and I brought the title of them, but I want to just show you what and discuss what they kind of bring up, because the first article from Spencer Backus, I believe is the last name, and this article is entitled, "Can Internet Gambling Be Effectively Regulated to Protect Consumers and the Payment System?" And this author argues that online gaming creates underage gambling addicts. So this particular article goes into a lot of those apps that we talked about earlier that are so easy to download. Now, they are illegal in Texas, but they're so easy to download, so easy to have access to. And according to the author, it's creating this group of addicts that are underage. And so another article, though, within the same database by Evan Weiner, this one is called "Time to Allow Sports Gambling in Atlantic City." And this author argues that sports betting should be legal. So there's these both viewpoints of, run with it. It's going to be wonderful for our communities. It's going to be detrimental to our communities, and some of those things that we talked about,
Right.
The how communities are destroyed because of crime, how communities, you lose family members because of all these different things. So, you read in the literature these both sides of gambling, and I think it's so interesting. And we talked about earlier about Hollywood and movies and their glamorizing of Las Vegas and of gambling.
Well, like movies like Ocean's 11, of course. That one's, okay, well, that one's the Hollywood things. Okay, well, some of the movies that do that were The Sting, Casino, Ocean's 11. Those are a lot of big movies in Hollywood. But also,
With
they
some
also
major actors,
empower
too.
major actors who have gambled a lot of their lifetime. Of course, they're empowered by it because they carry such high salaries. And of course, the only problem is, of course, we idolize these movie stars, and we think they're really hot, and we want to do what they're doing. And if they're gambling, we want to gamble too. And sometimes that can be problematic. The amounts, to me, are shocking. To me, that's where I like, for example, Walter Matthau. He's famous of his lifetime. He's again, I believe he's passed on now. But during his lifetime, anytime you interview, once or twice, he would sprinkle, or he would say, "Well, how much did you lose over your lifetime?" Well, you can give me a number, and he could. It varied, but I think the number was $5 million.
Oh my goodness!
Over a course of your life, losing $5 million, that's kind of hard to swallow for a lot of normal, average American like you and me. Like these guys are carrying huge salaries of $30 million, $40 million, and just gambling away like candy, like it's nothing. And that's where you point that negative side. Well, if he can do it, I can do it. So that their thinking just kind of clicks into most addicts, and I can do it. Hey, Walter Malloy can do it. I can do it. And then it starts to become a vicious cycle again. And you go again. Charlie Sheen, he was making $1.8 million an episode doing 2.5 Men. You probably know.
Yes,
Of course, and everybody, of course, knows, how he ended, how he exited, unfortunately. But at one point, for the course of 3 months, he lost, according to what the research I found, $2.5 million in 3 months. That's crazy. That is just ridiculous number. I mean, that is ridiculous. I can't even put my head around this other one I found. Tiger Woods, of course, the famous golfer, not a Hollywood star, but he has a lot of endorsements and a lot of commercials. Over the course of a period of 7 years, he blew $58.5 million. I can't even imagine. I would just put it in the bank and unsave it because by then I wouldn't like to let that just slip away like that. But some of these gamblers do that. They lose all this money in Monte Carlo and Las Vegas and Atlantic City, and it's nothing to them. But for others, African Americans who may have a problem, it can lead to some disappointing, terrible things.
Yeah, oh man, John, those numbers are astronomical.
Go ahead,
when you
no.
think about.
When you stop and think about it, like, dang, 5 million, doing 8.5, geez, that's almost, probably just imagine just having one. My dad is, I remember asking was, what kind of money would you have to settle for all of it? Just $1 million. I mean, fine, a modest number, and these guys have numbers spending their gambling debts way huge than we could possibly imagine, so astronomical.
That is. Oh my goodness, I can't.
You can't even put your head around
I've
it.
been to Vegas a couple of times, and I have seen some of those high rollers in those little rooms in the back where they are, catered to, and drinks keep flowing.
They keep flowing, yeah, and they just keep enabling. They keep bringing the chips. I think in the movie Casino many times, these guys. I think they mentioned some of the politicians. Boy, they have the comp trips, and they love those kind. They get addicted to that too, and they get a certain amount of chips, I think, and then they start gambling.
Yes, it's too easy, John.
Exactly.
But I've seen these. I've passed by. I'm not gonna say
close from a distance.
From a distance. But a regular slot machine on the floor was 25 cents, maybe $1 a play. And I remember passing by one of those high roller slot machines, $100 a play.
Ooh. Oh, that's big money.
That's big money. And there are people playing.
And wow, another 100. Just go in the machine, and they're hoping to hit the 5,000.
That's it. Yes.
The 3 cherries, and they can. And sometimes these elderly people too. I'll see them.
I know.
That's kind of sad, because they're paying their Social Security check on that, hoping they're going to hit the big.
I know, right?
That's
a lot of us dream.
And they dream, and they just keep, but it's a mirage. But we keep going through it anyway.
We keep going. One of the wonderful things that I like about the show is going and talking to people about the topic. And so we're gonna go back to a music break. Oh my goodness, the time just flies by when we're having fun and on this show. And I really appreciate you joining us again. But we are gonna go to a music break, and when we come back, I want to share with you some quotes of people that I interviewed asking them about the lottery. So join us back. You're listening to Library Talk and everything else only on Vaquero Radio, the Valley's student station. All right, welcome back. We are getting ready to wrap up on this episode of gambling in both the state of Texas and in the United States. And it's also international, John.
Yeah,
sure. This
Mm-hmm.
goes beyond, some people that, go on cruises as soon as the boat crosses international waters, they can start gambling, right?
That's right.
So it's just something that's so prevalent in our society, in our culture, and in movies and television. And so I had an opportunity to ask several people what their take is on the lottery. And so I asked them, do you play the lottery? And so here are their responses. Again, we don't give anybody's name. We just give their quotes. So I do because I think it's fun, and I like to play when the jackpot is huge. Yes, it's a family tradition. Same question. Do you play the lottery? Yes, because I want to retire early.
Of course. Can't get away from that. They all retire. We all would want to do that. We could.
Right. And do you play the lottery? Not really. Okay. Another one. Used to, but not often anymore. Another person said, no, I've never done it. Yes, the enjoyment of it and hope of winning one of the big drawings. So that's always what we wish for, right?
Of course, naturally.
And then so another one here. Yes, when I have cash in hopes to win big. You can't win if you don't play. If I don't win, I feel like my money goes to the Texas Fund for Veterans Assistance and or other state programs, so everybody wins. And that's one of the things that I really enjoy about the show is, talking to people and asking them point blank, I guess, what they think about these different topics that we kind of cover on the show. And sometimes some of the episodes lend themselves to it, others they don't. But this was one of a really great conversation that John and I had, and we've discussed this earlier. So I know we're getting ready to go here, but John, I will ask you, and I know I didn't prep you for this, but what is your big ticket item if you were to win the lottery?
Oh my gosh, that's so.
And again, I know I didn't prep you for that.
Oh, yeah.
And again, I do need to say we are not in any way promoting or advocating for the lottery. We're not. But I'm curious, John. What is your big ticket item if you were to win?
Well,
the
honest to God,
big
if you ever did hit
jackpot?
that thing, if I had one that I would really want, and then that I'm a big aficionado, just like old Jay Leno's classic autos, I would love to have a collection like his. But if I had to choose one car, I would choose the 1957 Ford Thunderbird, and the red one.
And that's your
And that
go-to.
would be my go-to thing. If I had the money, I would buy it, put a CD player in it, or some kind of attachment or something. I'd put my USBs and just cruise and listen to my music, man, like I would, because I've always wanted one like that.
So that's your big ticket
Not a
item.
big ticket item.
Yeah, my big ticket item, I believe, would be a Lamborghini Countach,
Oh my gosh! Wow.
or a decked out DeLorean from Back to the Future.
Oh
just
wow!
with
Yeah,
all
and I
with
have
all
seen
those-
one of those
with all
like
those
that.
things,
Oh,
yeah.
those would be nice. That'd be fun.
So again, thank you so much, everybody, for joining us for this episode of Library Talk and everything else. And Mr. John Ferris, thank you so much for
Oh,
joining
my
us.
pleasure.
too.
You know, it's my
So,
pleasure to be with you, my friend.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you being here and appreciate all of you for allowing us again the opportunity to spend our morning with you. So any final thoughts, John, before we kind of close out the show? Anything else about the lottery? Because I do have one last thing that I'll say after you, your thoughts.
My quick thought, really, just to handle it responsibly. That's what I do. I'll handle it responsibly. As long as, it's just become, I keep it in control. I'll restrain myself to a budget, maybe $1,500, and I'll gamble during the week or the month, and just leave it at that. Just have some restraint. If you don't have restraint, it can lead to problems. That's all I'll say.
Exactly. I'll close off with another resource that I used from the UTRGV library. Plug. And this is a database called IPO. And IPO, what it does is it has within its collection several different polls and surveys that have been conducted, and it's a wonderful way to look at how you navigate your way around surveys and things like that. And so the question that was asked in this particular poll within that database, it was from a CBS News survey, and the sample size was 1,011 participants, and the question was asked: How often do you buy lottery? How often do you buy a lottery ticket? Excuse me, once a week, 1 to twice a month, a few times a year, hardly ever, or never. And so these are the breakdowns according to the resource. It says 7% said once a week, 9% said once, twice a month, 15% said few times a year, 26% said hardly ever, and 42% said never. John, that was an interesting number. And 1% did not answer the question. So this, again, is a wonderful resource if you're doing research and you want to know different surveys and how to conduct different polling samples. So, yeah, this is iPoll. Again, thank you so very much, everybody, for joining us. Be careful with the weather. I know there's kind of an alert. Hopefully nothing happens, but just be ready, be prepared. And I want to thank again Mr. Ferris for joining us
My
here in the
pleasure.
studio.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. I
Wonderful
appreciate
conversation.
It is awesome.
So I want everybody to take care of themselves, and we'll see you next time here on Library Talk and everything else, only on Vaquero Radio, the Valley's student station.